Welcome to No Prize Podcast. I'm the professor. That's Johnny. That's Lucas. What's going on, gentlemen? How are you?
All good. Can't complain.
For the next week, don't refer to me as Lucas or Chitlins. You can refer to me as turkey, ham, and freaking dressing. Because Thanksgiving is upon us. The season of all seasons is upon us.
Yay!
Time to get to eat on.
Yeah, happy Destroyed Indigenous Species Day. Yes.
Hey.
Well, hey, if you have lived around me, Johnny, you would know that the turkeys they deserve to be eaten. There's too many of them running around, and they are vicious if you run into one. And you never run into just one. There's always like 6 or 7 of them.
Too many turkeys? That sounds like the Patriots.
That I'm not arguing with you there. I wish we could have left half the team over in Germany after last week's fiasco.
I know we're not talking football, but just how miffed must be the NFL to send the cost of sending 2 professional NFL football teams all the way across to Germany for a 10-6 match. It's like, congratulations, the marketing team, whoever thought of that one, they should be fired.
Yeah,
I had more fun watching the crowd. They were doing the wave and they were singing "Sweet Caroline" and everything. I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Europeans are party.
Yeah. So in context, so the main thing that we've always said of why we love football more, or American football more than soccer, is because there's more scoring. But when you think of what 10-6 is, that's literally only like 3 goals. That's it.
Yep.
That's it. 3 goals.
Terrible.
So, that's absolutely pathetic. Freaking.
In fairness, there's only more scoring in American football because you count more. If touchdowns were worth 1 point, it'd be like, hey, every game would be 4-0, 5-0, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's also true. So, all right, we got a lot to get to today, and hopefully we can find something today to talk about that we're thankful for. That's a lot to ask. It's a lot to ask. So let's go into. We have our season finale or series finale, really, because it's come out that Loki. Season 2 is the end. And it's the end of Tom Hiddleston as Loki, and is it the end of Jonathan Majors as Kang? That's the big rumor coming out this week. But anybody want to put some sense into the last episode there, Lucas? Seems to me like it was just a proper ending.
So I kind of wanted you guys to talk to it, and then I was going to come in on top. But let's go through the whole thing of what this show is about. Right?
Bear in mind, I've not watched any of it, so don't look at me to help you out on this one.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
I'm doing the back seat on this one.
So shortly after the original Avengers, Loki, he picks up the Tesseract and he blasts off to like the Gobi Desert. After the Gobi Desert, the Time variant authority, they show up, they put him into custody, and then there's this whole rigmarole where they want to prosecute him and ban him out of existence. But instead of executing him, he has been recruited to help them out and find these other Loki variants. That takes us to season 1 and season 2. At the end of season 1, they find out that the person who is running the TVA is Kang the Conqueror, or a variant of Kang the Conqueror, and he warns them like, "Hey, if you take me out and kill me, there's a millions of me that are out there, and they are going to come, and they're looking for nothing but freaking destruction and freaking war, right? Season um season two is like, hey, now that the TVA have disbanded because they've figured all that stuff out because Loki and Sylvia tell them, um, they all these other timelines are now appearing because the TVA, they're not doing their job, they're not putting off everything, and then everything is going to go kablooey if somebody doesn't do something, and that takes us to um, the penultimate episode where they're trying to figure it out. Loki's trying to figure it out, and then in the last one, they don't figure it out, or he figures out that it's all a whole bunch of bluff. There's nothing you can do because there's a fail safe and yada yada yada, right? And everybody's going to die. Um, and what after Loki goes back and so he's like, well, I can't do this. I'm just in a loop. If I keep just doing this, I'm just in a loop. He goes back to talk to freaking King, and then he realizes, well, I just got to let it die and then revive what's left. So that's how that's. So he goes, he lets the freaking die. He takes the vines, those little spaghetti streams. That's what's left, and he becomes something. He becomes like God Loki, the All Butcher, the destroyer of worlds.
Well,
But he ties those into the big Yggdrasil tree that becomes the creation of a new universe. Now, the reason why I wanted to let you guys talk is because, in fact, I'll let you talk to, but Professor, I'll let you talk to it, and then I'm going to come up on top of the stuff of the reason why, after you hear me talk, is why you need to go back and rewatch it. So, Professor, go ahead.
yeah, I mean the basic they could have just shown us the last episode as far as I'm concerned is that the previous 5 episodes were just filler to this last episode where they just basically explain that you know the universe ends and then Loki just brings the branches together and then and the whole twist at the end was that that this was Yggdrasil, the world tree, part of Asgardian mythical lore, and that all of these branches tied together and held all the realms together, and that at the end Loki was not, I mean, he ends up in the throne on like with the branches, and he's controlling time basically.
Yep.
And to me, that was basically the myth, right? I mean, Loki ends up as he becomes the Yggdrasil in mythical lore. So to have him be that was kind of like I guess, poetic ending. But it kind of, to me, meant that everything we had watched before was, you know, they could, like I said, we should have just watched the last episode, and that there was not enough emotional beats in the previous 5 episodes as a whole to make me care either way. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's it. That's over. There was no emotional payoff. There was no big and I heard from that variety article we read a couple of weeks ago, told us that the MCU was screwed with Jonathan Majors after the season finale of Loki. So I was expecting some big huge thing where Kang the Conqueror became this all powerful being, and he kind of went out with a whimper. So to me, I was like, well, what are they talking about? Um, so I wasn't when I'm thinking about what does Loki do for the MCU as a whole as the MCU moves forward. I didn't really see anything that wrapped up anything as far as multiverse goes, or establishing any kind of new reality. Did you feel like it was a reset?
Um, I've got something to say about this actually.
Go
I have.
ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what's going on. There's a young lady where I work on my day job, and she says she watches lots of Marvel stuff. She had a couple of kids and like going on the Marvel movies and stuff. And she said to me the other day, "Oh, I've been watching this season 2 Loki." I was, "Oh, what did you think?" Because I've not watched any of it. And she goes, "Well, me and my husband, we watch it. He falls asleep and then wakes up at the end of the episode and then asks me what's happened. And I've stayed awake and I've watched the whole episode, and I have no idea."
Yeah.
Well, yep.
That's all I've got
So
to say.
that's why we're here, right? We're here to explain to people what is going on and what to look for, and give a little bit more context, right?
Okay.
Um, so why what we didn't haven't explained through these podcasts is who the TVA are, right? I had some slides prepared, but for some reason it just doesn't want to get through to all that stuff. So the TVA were built by He Who Remains, not this guy, not this guy who keeps calling himself He Who Remains.
Not Victor
Not
Timely.
not Victor Timely at all. Not Kane the Conqueror. He was the He Who Remains, and his job, his sole job, and he was even created by the one above all, to help usher in and keep some knowledge to pass on to the next universe, next stage cycle. He Who Remains, um, in order to help him and make sure that the proper stuff is recorded. He makes the Time Variance Authority. There's the three Norns that are out there that we well know, and they, with all this knowledge, they decided that they want to be the one who remains and kind of carry themselves over that. But through all their observances, they know that they can't do it. They have to have some outside individual do it. So then, when Immortus accidentally pops into their freaking timeline inside of limbo, they're like, oh, we could just have this guy do it, right? So they give him a tempad, they give him knowledge to stay young forever, and they say, hey, you just do what you got to do. Just make sure that, and they give him like some rules of what he can't do and what he could do. Once again, after getting all this knowledge, he figures out, oh, wait, I want to be the guy that is the guy that remains and then goes over to the next cycle, right? So he's doing all this weird conniving stuff. He builds this, instead of the Time Variance Authority, he built, or the Timekeepers, he actually builds these Time Twisters, that is doing all this weird stuff. But the main point along the lines that they have to watch is they are watching these Nexus beings. There's a few of them inside the MCU. There, for instance, Scarlet Witch, she's one. Man Thing, he's another one. Um, I think it was there's like Bobby Eric. There's like a few people that are these Nexus beings. That if you just watch them, you can see where things are going. And as long as they're on their proper timeline, everything's good. But if they make this one decision, things can go awry.
So how's that
So
explain
now,
Captain America Endgame?
I'm sorry, say again, sir.
How does that explain Captain America Endgame? Because he doesn't stick by the time rules, does he?
Right. So, but apparently they're allowed to do that, right? Whatever they're doing, it doesn't we can mess around with, because even in the first episode of Loki, they said, well, he says, well, if he said, oh, if you're looking for somebody that's messing around with the timeline, then you need to go check out the Avengers, right? And he was like, no, that's all that was supposed to happen, right? They're good. All that's supposed to happen, right? Um, so Captain America and Tony Stark, those and all those people, they're not Avengers, they're not freaking Nexus beings. They can just do and go crazy stuff, but they are not in any way tied
Those were
to.
the fixed points in time, things that you couldn't change that happened in all realities, right?
Yeah.
And then
hmm
yeah, okay.
So, but the main thing is that the thing that who remains, I'm going to talk about the one in the comics, realizes, and the thing that the timekeepers realize, and the thing that Immortus eventually realizes, is that if you try and change things, the only thing happens is that you end up in this loop. You just, every time you try and change something, you just end up in this loop and you can't freaking escape out of it. So the guy that's broken and torn at the end of time that you see in that castle, he is a broken man. He's been through this 1,000 times. He's trying to leave, but he realizes he can't leave because he's stuck in this loop. So he realizes that the reason why the the timekeepers brought him there and left him there is because by putting him in there, now they were able to actually escape. So now he who remains is doing the same thing. He's looking for these Nexus beings, somebody that could come in and help him escape, and that's where Loki comes in. Because Loki, who is a god, has been all over this timeline, all over these other timelines, but he hasn't been identified as a Nexus being, so the timekeepers don't actually know him yet. Now here's the crazy thing. If you were talking about the last 5 episodes or so, I think within the last 4 episodes, if you look at there's like a whole bunch of background stuff, like the posters and like the machines, everything. If you pay attention to that stuff, there is a lot of hints and Easter eggs that you're trying to put to remind people, to tell people what the heck is actually going on. The biggest one was, I think it was on the penultimate issue. There was a focus in on one of the coffee machines, right? And then in a big red circle, was the word "huspa," right? And like, oh, hotspot, right? What the what's that's a hotspot. That doesn't make any sense when it comes to coffee. But before there was the word duck buck, which is it's like a Iceland Swedish word, Norse type of freaking word that tells you, hey, the next word Hutzpah is actually Norse, right? So Husbuck is the big book, or actually, excuse me, it's a compilation of these poems, these Norse mythology poems, that describes who Loki is. For instance, in fact, I think it was one of maybe like the fifth issue of the second season or something like that. One of the when everybody's like, "Oh, Loki's the god of stories right now." Well, if you go back to the compendium for the god of stories, they talk. There's a big freaking scene where Loki goes down to this feast of the gods, right? And he goes in and he's freaking laying into them. He's insulting them and everything, right? And you're like, man, well, that's Loki. Loki's just a big just jack off, right? He's right. But if you go into the things that led up to that, you're like, oh, there's something else going on, and that's laid out in the poem. So the reason why they are there at that feast is because Balder has died. Balder is um, Odin's and Frigga's firstborn. Right? Even though everybody said Thor is first, no, it was actually Balder. Balder dies. He gets buried. Um, well, actually, he didn't get buried. He got burned on a freaking boat, and then they couldn't bring him back from the dead. So now they go to the vendor who is on Frigga's side of the house, and to give their veneration and memoriam and of Balder. They all get drunk. Loki freaking rise up. He arrives after he just got freaking done saving this family because the guys are all missing. He gets done saving one of the last vestiges of the people who are worshiping these gods. And he arrives under the sea and they're hiding out and they're getting drunk. And you know what he starts telling? And you know what he starts telling them? He's like, "Hey, you're." He's going to the male guys. He's like, first of all, you guys are a bunch of little wimps, right? You guys are not warriors. The women are all whores. You're doing all this other, and you guys are not being godlike. And then the guys retort, well, you're the guy that freaking turned himself into a milk cow, and you've been sleeping around with this and been doing all this stuff. And it is purposeful the way they lay it out because they're trying to lay out who Loki is, right? And what they know that Loki is, right? So, for instance, in the actual mythology, um, Loki is not Odin's son, right? Loki. So yes, this will help you. Loki in the actual thing, um, uh, Loki is not Odin's son. Never was. He was the guy. He was the god before. He was the god before even Thor was around. He's like no right. For instance, you know why he has the horns, right? It's because
It's because he feels sexy, and he knows it.
because he is actually a Dumbala. He was the milk cow. He was the milk cow
What?
that we can lick. Yeah, that licked Bori into existence. Bori uh, is Bor's father, and Bor was Odin's father. So Loki he was there at the beginning of all this stuff, right?
Oh,
Um, so Loki has seen it all, right? Loki has seen it all, and he knows that all of this because the gods are doing crazy stuff. He knows that there's this weird loop, and Loki is one of those Agatha Harkness. It's been Loki all along. It's been one of those weird stuff. All right, so inside the God of Storage Compendium, it talks about all this stuff, and then it talks about how, um, and in these poems, it talks about how Odin went to um, went to this witch to figure out what is going to happen, what is going to happen at the end of times and in Ragnarok. The witch tells him, well, one of the first things that's going to happen is Balder's going to die. He's going to be killed, right, by one of the other gods. And then after that, there's going to be an age of warriors not being warriors and the women sleeping around and doing all this other stuff. And then the sons of Loki are going to freaking eat is going to eat Odin up and kill all the other stuff, right? And she says the reason why I know this is because the stuff that's happening now is the stuff that I've seen before. So she's describing this whole mythology loop. Now Loki, who's been there, he's seen the same thing. So all this time, now they're trying to get us back into the Norse mythology, whereas there are people that have seen stuff that's happening, and Loki, all this time, has been trying to stop this whole loop from happening. He's been trying to break him and the people he loves out of this loop. But of course, the Norse gods are going to do what they're going to do. They're going to drink and freaking whore around, do all this other stuff. Um, so
There used to be a lot of hauling around. I'm beginning to wish I'd seen this now.
do you want to know the biggest example of how we know that this is where the direction where they're going?
I
Is
don't know
that,
which
remember?
direction you're going.
Yeah. So remember. So okay. So remember. I don't know if you got. Well, I don't know, Professor, if you remember. At one point, Morbius puts Loki in a timeout, right? And that timeout is a loop, right?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I remember
Right.
that. Sure. Yeah.
And in that loop, it's Sif, and she's got her hair in her hands, and she's like, "Loki, you did this, right?" And she kicks him in the nuts, and then they do it over and over and over
Yeah,
again.
yeah. That was an episode in season 1, right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So at the dinner, in that Norse poetic dinner, the reason why she's pissed at him is because he's the one that slept with her. Loki has slept with Sif. Remember, Sif is supposed to be Thor's wife, but she was sleeping around with Loki. And then she goes, "Hey, don't, whatever you're saying, don't tell everybody about us." And he
Wait, was
tells,
this
he's
this was MCU?
no, this is the actual Norse mythology, right?
Oh, okay.
And the reason why we know this actually happened is because in several of the Norse mythology myths, it talks about how Loki cut Sif's hair, right? Because Loki, he's been going on some of the same adventures that Thor has been going. And usually when you're getting ready to go out to war or an adventure, your wife cuts a little bit of her hair to remind you of her, right? And you put it in your little locket and goes off. Well, Loki, he's been jealous of Thor because even though he's been sleeping with Sif,
I do that every
he
time I go to work.
even though he's been sleeping with Sif, Sif has not been freaking giving him hair. So he decides, oh, you know what? I'm just going to cut off all her hair, right? So he cuts off all of her hair, and that leads to that scene that actually freaking happened. Um, and because the question has always been, okay, how did Loki even know where Sif was, and how did he get in there to cut her hair? And well, that's how because he knew he's been sleeping with her, and he cut her hair and everything. Thor gets back and he gets mad at Loki. He says, "Hey, what the heck are you doing? I'm gonna banish you for forever." Loki says, "No, I got you. I'm gonna freaking fix all this." He goes out to this land of the doors. He has the doors make this wig of this golden wig. And Mjolnir and this golden boar. So it wasn't Odin that made the hammer or gave Loki the hammer. It was Loki that had the hammer made, who gives it to Odin, and Odin gives it to Thor. Right. Um, so in the meantime, I mean, once again, all this is happening because the gods are not doing what they're supposed to be doing, and instead of going out and fighting on behalf of the people, they're whoring around and all that other stuff. So Where this is all going is that Loki has known that there's a loop. He's trying to break these guys out of a freaking loop, but eventually he'll probably learn that in order to get these guys out of the loop, he's going to have to have some outside influence, which was probably himself, right? So here's another thing to look out for. There's two Lokis in season 2, or in between season 1 and season 2. There's one with the variant jacket that he puts on, and then there's one running around without the jacket where he's just got his normal dress shirt. That's another thing to look out for.
So, so here's the thing. So if there's a lot more Loki variants, do you think they get rid of Jonathan Majors and just re-sign Tom Hiddleston and maybe make him the new threat instead of Kang? Maybe it's Loki the Conqueror instead. Wouldn't
See,
that be cool?
I don't know. I don't know if they make him the threat. I do think they do flesh out the rest of the Loki compendium. So, for instance, you've got the other 10 or so Lokis that were inside of the limbo, right? Flesh out their stories if you want to, put them along the Avengers timeline, right? Because if they want to go back to the Avengers, that's something they can do. And instead of just having the old Avengers that we know, do an Avengers Forever timeline.
Mm.
Right?
Well, all right. In the interest of time, let's talk Marvels real quick before we take a break, because the Marvels came out last weekend, and we all saw it. That's a surprise. And I know that that there's been just a online has been like killing it. It's open to like you see here, low opening. So people, this is a sign, I think, of people just being superheroed out. Superhero fatigue. And of course, the combination of a bunch of people not wanting this kind of a movie to be out there. What did you guys think of the Marvels? I thought it was good. I liked it. My wife loved it. Thought it was great. I thought it was fun. I didn't think it was reinventing the wheel. And I thought it was. I thought all the characters stayed pretty true to what they were supposed to be. What did you guys think?
I loved it. I thought it was great. I'm glad it had a short run time because story-wise, there's not a lot to the plot. I think if you tried to extend that past it's the actual runtime, I think you'd run into some problems down the line. I like the fact that they kind of just went, we expect you to know who these are and just deal with it, which I thought was canny, rather than just have to go through all the origins yet again. We did get a bit of a snapshot of Carol's, I suppose, origin, but that was that was the only thing. I've got a couple of questions. If you guys want to, feel free to knock this, have a go at this.
Sure.
I didn't watch Miss Marvel TV show, so I understand that Kamala's powers are derived from the band she wears. There's a scene in the movie where the bad guys got both bands, and they get out in space, and then Kamala uses her magic powers to create a hand to pull them back in. And yet at that stage, Kamala's not wearing any of the bands. They're in space with Captain Marvel, so how does she use her powers? I don't know where this fits in with Secret Invasion.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd like the real Nick Fury to stand up. Is Nick Fury the comedy guy in this, or is he the mopey-assed, kill everybody guy, and I'm down on my luck from Secret Invasion? Which one is it? Because I can't keep up with this.
Yeah, this is one of those comic things. Well, for your first question, that was one of those comic things. And I think it's Captain Marvel where they got the new character. They've described that for the bands, they don't need to be visible. It's sometimes they just kind of simulate to your freaking body, and then now you can freaking use them.
But the bands, you actually see the bands on the bad guy in space. The bad guy gets destroyed, and the bands are in space with Carol. You can see the bands. They are there. This isn't a cloaking thing that she's really hiding them in. Ooh, look at me! I'm really wearing them. Ooh, where's the coin? Is it behind your ear? No, they're out in space. I can see them. They're there.
Well, yeah, it was revealed in the Ms. Marvel show um, that she didn't need the bands. That was a more
Right.
of that was more of a focus kind of thing for her powers,
Hmm.
and
I did not
that
miss.
she was, yeah, it was revealed at the end of the Ms. Marvel that she was a mutant. Remember?
I
So
don't. I didn't watch it. That's why I asked
yeah,
the question.
yeah. So it was, she didn't actually need the quantum bands, but it was more of a focus for the power. But then, of course, it would when you got both of the quantum bands, of course, that was like a way overpowered, and that was the one problem I had with the movie was how overpowered I think they even made Captain Marvel was like almost a step up. I never even saw Superman in the Christopher Reeve version relight a sun.
Uh, I would think you'd find if you cast your mind back a couple of years, there is a Captain Marvel special comic in which she does exactly that in the far-flung future, where she
Oh
enters.
yeah, nope. You're right. You're right.
I know I'm
Okay,
right.
thank you,
Yeah.
Johnny. Uh,
Hey.
I I still think that's a bit overpowered. You know
Yeah,
what?
yeah, great, but
You know
still.
what I think? You know what I think is missing from this and missing from the MCU as a whole is that
Fishnets.
besides fishnets, is that upper tier of cosmic beings that I think could have maybe put Captain Marvel in check. Like if they introduced like the Living Tribunal, which we've seen a little, like we've seen Easter eggs of that, or Eternity as a whole. You know, maybe Doctor Strange could have introduced some of these cosmic beings, like we see in What If with the Watcher and everything.
Yeah, that's a
If
show.
they showed something on that upper tier where we show, okay, well, you know, she can light suns and everything, but she can't warp reality like like these Infinity Stones do. But I thought that was what was missing, something to prove that there was a stronger power in the universe than Carol, because right now she seems to be God.
The
So
only the only sort of knock I'd put on that one, just as a kind of
yeah.
aside, is that nobody loved the Eternals, and those were the powerful beings that you're talking about, and yet nobody
True.
watched that movie. So
Yeah.
why would you put in a movie that's already getting slated before it even got started? Why
I
would you
think
put in the most
so.
least popular superheroes?
I think it would ground her more. That was the one thing. That was the one problem I had with the movie, was that I was just like, there's nothing she can't do. You
Mm.
know, there was just nothing she can't do. Um, and then and of course the price of admission, worth the price of admission, that after credit scene where
Agreed.
we showed where we finally see we see Monica wake up in the hospital bed. She sees her mom, and then we are introduced to the Beast, and now we know we're getting the X-Men, to which I think I even shouted in the theater, finally. So, Lucas, what did you think?
It was, I'll go with everybody else on this one. It was a fun little romp. It was good and short. People were complaining about the fact that her parents out in space for no reason whatsoever. Okay, that's fine. I didn't, like people are talking about Nick Fury and how he's a joke now. Like, look, man, freaking, he. Yeah, he was a bad mama jumbo when he was on Earth, but now he's out in freaking space doing what he wants to do, just having fun where serving his purpose. So let's leave that. People are talking about complaining about the villain and everything. It was like, look, he doesn't have to be a supreme level villain every single time. But look, she almost destroyed like 3 planets, and of course, one movie. So don't tell me that she's not a bad enough freaking villain, right? Um, but I do like how they did intertwine everything in between um, Imani Van Comic Con. I liked how they intertwined her story and the stuff, and the action scenes were freaking absolutely amazing, absolutely fantastic. And then they, at the end of it, they're tying the pain and the trauma for Monica Rambeau into this freaking get all freaking, hey, this is where we're going from this situation. No, so we were just talking about where do we go from here now that the whole Kang situation is kind of jacked up with Jonathan Majors. Well, we don't have to worry about it because if we got the X-Men come in, then we just worry about that stuff. We don't have to worry about freaking Kang and a million Kangs coming along. Forget all that stuff. Um, as for Carol Danvers, I do like the fact that they gave us just a little bit of a hint of what she's been doing or what she's been doing while all that other stuff was going down on Earth and the people were missing her. I do like that. Hey, she had some adventures and she was down into some stuff, right? They may have probably wanted to give a little bit more of why she married the dude, like because it's American Venus. Like, well, how bad was it? you know, I think one of the Easter eggs that people are missing is Imani's or Sheba Kamala Khan's suit, right? The one that they gave her. That's Storm Ranger, right? Storm Ranger is a villain that comes along later. Right? So how she was able to whip the scarf around and freaking hit it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a thing. Just like Doctor Strange's freaking cape. No, it's its own freaking sentient thing. So maybe we'll get to see that later on if they do decide to do a Kamala Khan Miss Marvel season 2 or something like that.
So
But yeah, go ahead.
so no, basically what I think is don't believe the hype. Go see it. It's a pretty good movie, right?
Yeah,
It's fun. It's a fun movie. You don't have to
Yeah.
think about it too much. Just enjoy it for what it is.
Yeah. All right. That's great. So let's take a quick break and we'll be back in a minute. We'll talk some comics when the time we have left. All right, make sure to check out the Definitive Crusade, all about DC Comics, airing on opposite weeks that we come out at you. Starring that guy over there, Johnny. And the 13th Crusader is back.
He is. He's hanging out with the new kids on the block, giving his usual 13 cents worth of opinion.
All right, so let's jump into a couple of comic reviews for this week, and up first we have the Uncanny Avengers number 4. Johnny, this was your pick this week.
Who picked this?
You picked it.
Did
What's
I?
going on with Rogue on that cover? Shoes.
I have no idea.
What's up?
All right, so this is written by Jerry Duggan, art by Javier Garon, colors by Molly Hollywell, and letters by VC Travis Lanham. If you want to blame anyone for this book, blame you lot for buying it. Simple as. So I picked this book because I think I looked at it at Free Comic Book Day and I was quite intrigued by it. But I'm in a little bit of a situation with this because I like Cap and I like the X-Girls that are on this, but I absolutely detest Deadpool. So I'm not even reading it that often, but because Deadpool, man, who likes Deadpool now? Anyway, the main thrust of this story is who is Captain Krakoa, and there's a big twist at the end. What I will say is Ben Urich's in this book, and I want to know, is it the same Ben Urich that's in the Daredevil book? Because it sure doesn't seem like it. It's not a case of Nick Fury's going on. So here's my question: is there only one reporter that works for the Daily Bugle now?
Yes.
Really? I thought
No.
Cindy, what's her face from Spider Person? Cindy, what's her name?
Oh, I don't know.
The Spider Person.
Cindy Moon.
Yeah, there you
Cindy
go.
Moon.
She works.
Oh,
She,
sure.
she works for the Bugle, right? Does she not?
I think that there's enough characters that they've introduced in the Daily Bugle that they could show more than
Ben?
Robbie,
Yeah.
Robbie, and more than Ben.
Right. Yeah. Where's Kate Cushion gone? Did she get killed somewhere? So this is the problem with the book. The art's a little bit too cartoony for my taste. There is a big reveal at the end. You know, we're going spoilers. So Captain Krakoa turns out to be Hail Hydra, Steve, back from God knows when he was in the Secret Empire. So is it a Fall of Mutant book? Is it the kind of Fall of X thing? Is it an Avengers book? You know what? I have no idea at this point. I'm just glad that I'm just hoping that with the fall of X will go the fall of this goddamn font and the fall of this color scheme, because I am sick of picking up so many different books and saying exactly the same thing. Let's have some creativity. Thank you very much. Boom. There you go.
Lucas, what did you think about Uncanny Avengers?
What the hell are we doing here? They decided to bring back Hell Hydra Cap for what exactly? Like, I don't get it. The art was absolutely terrible. Johnny was a lot more gracious with it. The art's terrible. The lettering was freaking terrible. I don't understand. If you wanted to bring back Hell Hydra for something, this was not it. You know, and I do think they should have the Hell Hydra Cap running around, but this was not the story. That's it.
So I'm right there with you guys. I had some more different questions because Hydra Cap has been dead for the last couple of years, which doesn't really mean anything. But he apparently melted, and I can't remember which book it was in. But now here he is. He's back, and he said he's been resurrected, which to me meant that just like Cap got brought back by the resurrection eggs. They brought back Hydra Cap. How did Orcus get that technology to bring him back? And apparently, how the heck does he fly? He's flying. He's doing super heroic type stuff.
Power suit, isn't it?
I don't know if it's a power suit. They
I
didn't really
think
explain
I think Captain Krakoa suit's very much like a Captain Britain suit, rather without the other world magic.
Okay, yeah. If they want to explain that, and I actually thought this was the stupidest red herring, where we were supposed to think that this was Cyclops, and did anybody think that this was Scott Summers and the Captain Krakoa?
Because we read the Avengers #1, and we saw Scott get his ass handed to him by Krakoa. So no, I think pretty much was all right with that.
Yeah. So I actually, the first time I saw Captain Krakoa and then saw that he was going to be going up against the Uncanny Avengers, I really thought that it was Hydra Cap since the first time I saw it. So,
really?
Yeah. So the end of the fourth issue reveal really didn't do anything for me because I was like, okay, I guessed it right. But you're right about Deadpool. Deadpool's not a team person. I don't know why they kind of try to force him into every team like they do Wolverine. Like he's in like X-Force and he's not a mutant, first of all, which I don't know why they keep putting them on the mutant teams. But
easy. It's all about the money.
Yeah, well,
how do we sell a book? Let's put one of our most popular characters in for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah. And Quicksilver fits because he's an Avenger and he's a mutant, and so but I just don't like him in this particular team, and they pretty much force him together with Monet, and I don't think that's a great team, but they do this so much with the mutant characters in X-Men is they're pairing them all up, and I don't like that at all. I think that the team dynamic, I think you said you like the women in this. I don't like I don't like Psylocke on here. I don't like. There was a couple. There was a panel where they showed the Avengers kind of parachuting in out of nowhere. Right? Did you see that panel?
Yeah, I
Remember
did,
that
yeah.
Captain America, Deadpool, them they're in the parachutes landing, and then they had the Quicksilver's running, and then the flying characters are coming in for a landing, but then Psylocke's just standing there posing. And I'm like, oh, how did Psylocke get there? She doesn't have a parachute on. She doesn't fly. Did
What I mean to
I
say,
didn't
when I
get
say,
it.
when I say I like the characters, it's I like the characters. I don't particularly like the version in here. But if I'm going to buy a book with X characters, chances are I'm going to be buying it with Rogue and Psylocke in it.
Okay.
So apologies for the confusion.
Yeah, and then the shot, the weird cover on this year, where it kind of look at like that Days of Future Past type cover, and Rogue just she looks too long in the torso, doesn't she?
I don't know. Where did Steve Gaze met Lamb from?
Is it in the book? I didn't see it in the book at
I
all.
didn't see it in the book.
Okay, all right. Well, tune in next issue. Maybe they'll explain that. All right. Maybe not tune in next issue because I'm kind of done with that book anyway. All right, let's move on to the next book real quick. Daredevil #3. In case we didn't get enough Ben Urich and Uncanny Avengers, here's a second different. Is this a multiversal Ben Urich? This one owns the Daily Bugle, and in the previous in Uncanny Avengers, he's doing the reporting, and here he's doing the running of the paper. But continuity doesn't mean anything anymore. But anyway, let's see. Credit where credit is due. We have Saladin Ahmed writing, Aaron Cooter and Fareed Karami on pencils, Cam Smith and Fareed Karami on inks. Jesus Abertov is the colors, and letters by VC's Clayton Cowles. And if you didn't like it, blame Tom Groneman and Devin Lewis as the editors. This is I guess, a kind of a Daredevil of a different color, but kind of the same story. It's Matt Murdock apparently sacrifices his life in the last run and dies, and here he's back to life, somehow returned to life. But he's not a lawyer anymore. He is a priest working to help the inner city youth stay on the straight and narrow. Helping to run a little like a homeless shelter for wayward children, and over the last couple of issues, has come up against the city trying to prove that he's mistreating the children. And in the meantime, he rediscovers the fact that he's Daredevil and is now trying to fight crime and also, save these children from a life on the streets. None of this really has the ring of originality to it. I've seen the inner city kid thing in Nascenti and John Romita's run from 30 years ago. We know that Matt is more of a street level type character, vigilante. We know that he gets his heartstrings pulled by the sob stories. We didn't really see him in action against any big villain. We see him going up against a biker gang in this issue, instead of meeting the kids, which is supposed to be, that's the conflict, right? He's sacrificing the well-being of these inner city kids and putting them at risk so that he can go fight crime. Couple of good visuals in this. I kind of like the art. There's a couple of good things in the fight scene when he does something with the crane with the Billy Club. I don't really get the physics of the Billy Club, but the art's good. And then the reveal at the end where he listens to the phone message and understands that Bullseye's back. And again, not too original because kind of expect to see Bullseye, but I'm kind of on the fence on this book. I don't know what you guys feel. I think the story's kind of not really doing it for me, but the art's okay. What did you guys think?
If I may,
Yeah, man. Go ahead.
thank you. Wolverine, Daredevil's hypersense is beyond bonkers. You've turned around and said that Captain Marvel's overpowered. So's Daredevil. Absolutely. It's to the point where he's supposed to be blind, but he sees better than people who can see. It is absolutely ridiculous how powerful that hypersense is. I don't get it. I don't understand it. This for Matt is a slow boil. There's stuff going on. We do know that Ben Urich is obviously possessed by the same demon that tried to possess Daredevil to get him to do dodgy things in the first issue. I'm a little bit unsure about this because in my head, Elektra's still around. She's the Lady Daredevil. So if she's Lady Daredevil, why is she not protecting Hell's Kitchen as opposed to Matt having to do it? Again, I agree with you. The art's not so bad. Here's the thing. Anybody notice that this is Legacy 665? That means the next one is Legacy 666, the Mark of the Devil. So does that mean they're going to do something special? If that's the case, I would like them to, now they've reintroduced Bullseye, I would like them to redo the Bullseye Lady Daredevil fight, but this time it's Elektra, the Blade's Bullseye, therefore breaking her vow not to take her life with Matt, and that's how she gets back to being Elektra as opposed to Lady Daredevil. And why she going back to being Elektra and not Lady Daredevil is because they're not doing anything with her for Lady Daredevil. They're just sitting there in the background doing naff all. So if you're going to do that with a character who actually surpassed Daredevil, it was Lady Daredevil who got me interested in this book with Chip Zdarsky in the first place. So, you know, if you're not going to use her, put her back to where she was, please. Thank you very much. And that is my shout on this book.
Lucas, your
It's
Daredevil thoughts.
Yeah, it's a good catch-up book to let us know how terribly they're doing Daredevil, right? This is an incredible, like how they had a really good run for 2 to 3 years, and now they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to change them a little bit. Right? Okay, change is fine, but now instead of being a lawyer who is kind of on the outskirts of what his boundaries are supposed to be, now they've got him as a priest. He's got these kids, and now he's pissed off all the time. You know, I don't get it. Right? They didn't have to make him a priest for him to care about these kids in an orphanage, right? So I don't, or they didn't have to make him a priest to do all this stuff, and now he's still doing some of the same Punishers type stuff, right? Where he's freaking trying to take out gangs and everything. I don't. You can ask Blind Adam. Like, I don't understand the thing with the phone. Like, why they got him trying to tip away at the phone? Because usually, yeah, there are phones that you can freaking click into and everything, but you have to have it dialed in to like how you want it to operate and everything. So I didn't get that stuff. So in the meantime, look, that's just 2023 or 2023 or this run. You could go ahead and sit this one out because now what is this? Is this John Romita Jr.? Yeah, he's on some bullshit. You can sit this one out.
Well, he just did the cover.
Yeah. Oh.
Instead of drawing Amazing Spider-Man where he's supposed to be.
Oh, man, yeah. And then
why does he get two Billy Clubs? Anyway,
I don't know. Now the Ben Urich thing that is interesting that they're trying to bring it up, but they got it wrong. Newspapers, they have to have legs in order to keep their certification as an actual paper that people buy and to keep their authorizations as like certified journalists, right? Otherwise they can't get in freaking certain places. So that's why he's doing what he's doing. So for the other guy, I mean, old boy to say, oh, you can't do that. No, you could have said maybe like, hey, you can ask him. You can ask him like, hey, did you try to follow up and see that your source was actually verifiable? You can say that, but don't say, well, we don't have to chase likes. No, they have to chase likes. They have to sell newspapers. That's how newspapers sell nowadays. So
I love Lucas. I absolutely love you. You are fantastic. Only Lucas can explain something like in a movie by turning around and saying, well, that's comic book stuff. And then get himself bent out of shape about the legalities of how to run a newspaper.
It's the details, man. It's the details, right? It's that's the way. Like I've always said, like, hey, let if you're going to talk about newspaper stuff, go ahead and get some advisement from a newspaper guy on like how this would actually work. If you want to write a love story, I don't care whether it's heterosexual or LGBTQ, get an actual romance story writer to freaking help you write that stuff. So, for instance, I forget which story it was. It was one story this week that I read about Gambit and his wife, and it was absolutely freaking terrible.
Was that Dark
Absolutely freaking
X-Men?
terrible.
I think that's
Yeah,
Dark X-Men.
it
Yeah.
was terrible. It was like
Yep.
it was so clunky. I was like, what are we doing here? Why do you even put this in here? Right? If they were fighting, I could understand that. Like, hey, you're spending too much time with all these shady people. Like, no, I still love you, even though you're hanging out on Saturday nights when you're supposed to be at home with me, snuggling up. No, they was like, oh yeah, it's all good. Just
Hmm.
go ahead. Like, nah, that's terrible.
All
Terrible.
right. Let's go. Let's explain to me your pick this week, Star Wars Visions. What the heck is going on here?
So there's the light side, and then there's the dark side, and then there are people that are within the dark side that are Sith, but they don't want the Sith to be able to do everything that they can do. They want to have some of the powers of the Sith without actually being able to actually tap into it. So you know what I'm saying? So for
No.
instance, there are people that are part of the light side that are not necessarily Jedi, but they can still tap into the light side of the Force. Just like that, there are people that are part of the dark side of the Force, but they're not necessarily able to tap into it.
So like the priest in Rogue One, who starts the whole
Yes.
"I'm one with the Force is with me," and also so he's a light sider, and you've got the witches of Dathomir, who are pretty much dark siders but not Sith.
Right.
Exactly.
So
So
where does Marvel / Disney get off on thinking that we would not need a script to follow Peach Momoko's art? And I mean, I get it. Sometimes we had some really great scriptless art books in Marvel's history, where it's you can watch it and it really enhances the comic. So you can watch it, you can look at the procedure of the art, and it follows from panel to panel what you're supposed to be looking at, how the story is supposed to progress, and that you at the end of the book you feel like you read the story even though there's no script. Here, I think this book would benefit 100% from a script. What do you think?
I don't think so. I don't
You
think
don't?
so. Yeah, because here's what they're doing. They're relying on the fact they're relying on people to have read everything else that's going on with the High Republic. And so, for instance, I've been telling people about the whole Derringer situation, the Scourge situation, where there's this force of sentient beings out there. They're out there just to kill everybody, and they'll eventually take over the whole universe. This cult right here thinks that they're tapping into the darkness, but they're actually tapping into those sentient beings, um, and where that whole monolith thing drips down, it drips onto what's her name, Tata, and then Tata, she's going to doing this whole weird thing, um, and it's just a corruption of the innocence type freaking story right there, where they're trying to keep everybody sentient of like, hey, there's this whole thing that's out there, and they're now introducing this whole cult and everything. So now we can hop on to this cult and see like how the Derringer, how the Scourge survives going forward. And I think that was the purpose of the story right here.
Was this just a Sarlacc that had the Force because it had the tentacles
No
and it
force,
was
yeah,
taking people?
no force, no force here. This
No
was a
Sarlacc. This wasn't a Sarlacc.
it
That
could
wasn't
it could
that
well, it could
wasn't
have
a
been Sarlacc.
cervix. I'm
Yeah,
sure it was a cervix.
it could have been a Sarlacc, but that was not the purpose of the story here. The purpose of the story is to introduce this Sith like cult like thing that's out there that's aided by this cult. That's going to be a very important piece of the Star Wars universe later on. And
I
so
don't have a
absolutely.
problem. I don't have a problem with art books, Lucas. I think it's a brave choice to pick this one. I don't have a problem with art books, but it's an art book. I and
Mm,
what
yeah.
I found even more incomprehensible at times was to give you the opening page and say, right, this character's this person, this character's this person, this character's this person. There is no context to what these people are doing. I haven't read the other stuff. This is not a jumping on book. If you love Peach Momoko, and loads of people do, then by all means buy this book and enjoy it, because there are some absolutely stunning art pieces in this. It's absolute highbrow kind of abstractness that you don't get to see in Star Wars, hence it's called Visions. So if that's your thing, go for it. Trying to hang a story on it, it's like trying to put Eeyore's tail on.
Yep.
It's not going to stick for too long, in my opinion. But not
Yeah, I mean, this cult is not going to last long. This cult is not going to last long. I don't think they're going to last long. But it's just an example of like, hey, even though it's just a reminder, hey, you got these freaking Jedi, you got this freaking Sith, but there's these other people that are trying to tap into it, even though they don't have the training and all that other stuff, and they're just kind of making it up as they go along.
All right. All right. So I think we're kind of split thoughts on this. So I would have liked to see a script. The artwork speaks for itself. I mean, the art is very good, but I just needed someone to kind of help me along with the story. All right. Do we have a minute or two for some covers? Or
Yep, let's hit it.
Sure. All right. The big hits of the week.
2 minutes.
Yep. Big hits of the week was Black Panther #6. There's a couple of first appearances in this one. Also, Ghost Rider #20. This was not a big hit because people are missing on the fact that there was a new character in this one. It's called the Moonchild, who is the progeny of Ghost Rider and Talia Warhead.
Did I read somewhere the Ghost Rider's getting cancelled to be restarted?
For what?
I haven't heard.
For what?
Well, I must have misread it then. All right,
I don't know. I mean, it could be. On FLC this week is Amazing Spider-Man, the Simone Bianchi cover, which is a part of the it's part of the Amazing Spider-Man #41 set. Black Panther #7, Lozano variant 1/25. That's going to be the second appearance of the New King. Beware, Planet of the Apes. The winner this week for FLC this week is going to be this one. That's Scotty Young freaking cover. Captain Marvel is going to be a third appearance of the new character. We're going to see where it goes. Ghost Rider 21, Cully Hammer foreshadowing. We're going to see the Moonchild actually speak. Kid Venom Origins #1. That's going to be his first solo book. Man, these characters are getting their own solo books so quickly now. Marvel Meow. I know this is y'all's favorite, going to be your favorite book, and this is going to be, when it comes out, definitely going to have to read this one on the show. Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars Battle War. The Scotty Young is definitely going to be a winner.
There's a new Secret Wars book coming out.
Yeah, Battle World.
Is that not just a collection of the Battle World stories from the last one?
I don't know. It's not. It doesn't say compendium or anything. It just says. In fact, this is going to be issue #2 that I have up here. So issue #1 should be maybe coming out this week or next week. Predator versus Wolverine. People have been loving the Chichetto covers. I've been selling a shitload of them. Sentry. We didn't even get to talking to about. They did figure out was it Fantastic? Is it Fantastic Four? No, I forget what it is. But,
Thunderbolts.
Yeah, Thunderbolts. They did recast.
They cast Glenn.
Yes, Glenn from what was the name of the freaking show? I forget.
Walking Dead. Yeah, yep. Glenn from The Walking Dead is playing Sentry, which is the weirdest ass casting I've seen yet in the Marvel universe.
Yeah. Star Wars Dark Droids. We're getting more of the story that we were just talking about with the Vengeance, that artificial intelligence type scourge type deal. Great covers, but once again,
I've actually been enjoying that storyline, even though it's like kind of crossing over between every single Star Wars book. It's actually pretty good.
It is.
If you're reading it.
But only you have been reading it.
I guess.
Rob.
Is he back in Thanos?
He's back in Thanos, and quite a other few covers. So they're trying to make Rob a thing again. So if you want to speculate on Rob, be careful because they tried it before and people just weren't feeling it. But someday. Captain America #5, the Wolverine carrier by Jim Rugg, looks really good. There's the Captain America Bjorn Barron's cover. Carnage #2.
What is the fascination with Carnage? And they have to keep relaunching his book like every year, just like Captain Marvel. And I don't see the appeal. I know it's supposed to be like a horror type book, but he is kind of a one-trick pony, isn't he?
He is, but the it's not well not but he is. But the thing is that the people who have been writing him, I feel like they don't have experience in writing horror, right? They've rated him up to god level status and all this other stuff, but that's not what I'm reading a Carnage book. I'm reading Carnage to be scared the shit out of my freaking pants, right? And I have not gotten that in a while. No. Um, Moving on, Doctor Strange #11's got some good covers. Follow the House of X #1's coming up. Fantastic Four, I got some great freaking Alex Ross covers.
Oh, that's a cool cover.
Star Wars Visions. I believe this is issue #2 or is #3. I forget which one it is. A great Steve
Just,
Sakai freaking cover.
just so you know, that next issue of Star Wars Visions has no art; it's just words.
So I forget which one. There was a Darth Vader book, and there was like a few panels. There was like one story, and all it had was words. It was out there. So they've done it before. Timeless. Once again, that's a continuous of this whole Loki type storyline with Miss Minutes, and she's just doing her synchro staff thing. Follow the House of X, Art Germ, Magic Virgin. That's going to be the freaking winner this week if you can get your hand on it. All right, coming out this week very quickly. Captain Marvel, the Joshua Sweeb cover, and this very low. This might be the hit of the week. Carnage #1 100. Like I said, like we don't know why they keep doing this, but here we go. Rose beige. That rose beige. The regular cover is sold out. So if you can get your hands on it, that's one to keep an eye out on. The Daredevil Black Armor #1 100.
Like
Yes,
that.
sir. Yeah, excuse me, the 1 in 25 by Raphael. That's
Is
a
that the
really
name of the
great.
book? Daredevil Black Armor.
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Very low in stock is the Sensational She-Hulk issue #2. It looks like a window variant, and then that's it. That is your 10-minute
2 minute
2-minute
warning.
warning.
All right. Well, thank you both, and I hope you sincerely. I hope you guys have an excellent Thanksgiving this weekend. Johnny, is this just a work day for you?
It's just Thursday, man.
It's just Thursday.
Just a happy football day.
It'll be
Woo!
football. It's a holiday. It's a holiday for you too, because you're going to
Yeah.
be watching 3 football games.
Yeah.
So enjoy, everybody out there. Please have a happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Until then, stay safe.
Adios.